Alright, hello everyone. This is going to be a bit of a special episode. This does feature a ladder game, and the reason for that is because this is a lower level game feature. There's going to be a lot of basic mistakes, and the thing is, when I feature tournament games, or it's a lot much more serious play, and the players are making a lot of decisions naturally. But here, Mr. Manittas here actually just came back from a month of a break, so he's very rusty. He's making a lot of mistakes that lower level players are more prone to making, whereas the normal him, when he's not rusty, would never even make these mistakes. So I'm trying to showcase these as a way of explaining normal decisions that streamers or anything would take for granted and do naturally do. And if you're just to watch their streams, you're not really going to pick up on these details because they're just obvious to them and they don't really explain these decisions. So I'm gonna go over a game that features a lot more basic mistakes in this analysis. And so obviously this is, as you can see, Mr. Aphelios versus Zoe Asel. And this is going to feature a lot of basic aphelios decisions. This does still feature, or I should say, focus on aphelios, as you'll see. And he at this point, he's basically new to Ophelio, so he makes a lot of basic mistakes that pretty much everyone makes at some point in their first times with Ophelios. Better players get used to them sooner. In this position, it's actually quite tempting to play tempo Ophelios, but you really want to be able to trigger the Nightfall, and if it wasn't for the Solari Priestess, Tempo Ophelios might be tempting, but with Solari Priestess, you are offered a solid alternative, so you take that and just play Solari Priestess. The Tempo Aphelios, you should know. If you play Aphelios and you don't get to select the Moon Weapon, then it's completely random. So when you play two cards on in one turn while he's on the board later on, the Moon Weapon you get is completely random, and this makes him much worse. If you really want to be able to select Crescendum early or something else that may be necessary, but it's usually Crescendum on the first one, almost always. So in this position, as you can see, he actually has a perfectly valid option of just blocking and immediately playing Meteor Shower. But at the end, he only takes really 3 more damage and he gets to develop the Mountain Scryer earlier, which is something you want to do. The Mountain Scryer is well, you want to get it out early. You need to be able to play units, and if they don't kill it and you get the discount, then you could really recover a lot more tempo than trying to play a Meteor Shower that they can say just play Hail Cascade for. You're not too worried about the health right now. You do have ways to get around that. So in this position, he plays the Cosmic Inspiration, which is perfectly fine because it is risky because our opponent can, for example, kill our units here. But the thing is that they can't actually deal that much damage, and right now he is still relatively safe. There, we have 2 units, so even if he kills our unit with say Concerted Strike, he's not gonna have enough mana to really capitalize on that and set up a very scary open attack. And if he doesn't do that, then we'll have some time to develop our beefed up units and recover. If he does play something like single combat, what you should do is you should just accept it, and then basically accept that you have a 3/4 and work with your 3/4 and slowly recover from there. Now in this position, this Pale Cascade is really bad because you'll see that it only buffs us by +1/+1. And yes, if they have nothing, then this is good because we'll have a 5/3 blocker, and it's a big upside. But the problem is that our opponents run Sharp Sight. So what they can do is they can counter our Pale Cascade for the same amount of mana, have a lot of mana to spare for developing, and also save their unit. Right now, it's guaranteed that Mountain Scryer will trade 1 unit. But by allowing them to win the combat trick, it basically you're allowing them to pay Sharp Sight to summon a Mountain Goat, which is not something that is good in this position. You want to be able to minimize the amount of units they can summon for next round because the open attack next round is the primary threat. All you have to do is make sure that next round is as unthreatening as you can make it. So as you can see here, they have a really strong open attack because they were able to get a mountain goat for the, for their sharp sight, which is really bad. So now in this position, he tanks 10. He goes down to 1 HP, which is not. It could have been worse. It's still a manageable situation. In this position, you can just play Solari Priestess, maybe get like Golden Sisters, and then play Aurelian Soul. Sorry, Aphelios, and then you can still stabilize from there, thanks to the Cosmic Inspiration. So here you obviously have to pick Traveler. You don't want to be paying 5 or 6 mana for spells when you have cheaper units as an option. That is what you're looking for. So obviously you pick Crescendum here. Again, this is the main reason you play Cosmic Inspiration, and your main method of stabilizing after that is by playing a bunch of cheap units. That's what you absolutely have to do, or else it completely defeats the purpose of even playing Cosmic Inspiration. But here, as you can see, he actually says I'm at 1 HP, so I pick Severum, but you're not even going to be able to play Severum safely because they can have Concerted Strike. And now, so in this position, obviously, now that you've already selected Severum and you've played Sky Shadows, you have to play the Severum. If you play the Severum, you'll be able to phase into another moon weapon. You'll probably pick Infernum so that you can guarantee the, well, not guarantee the lifesteal, but so you can make your units actually unblockable almost. So right now, he should just play the Severum. Or you can even phase into Gravitum. Actually, no, you phase into Gravitum. That's much safer, so that you're safe against Concerted Strike, basically. So now in this position, he is scared of Concerted Strike. So if he plays this and they play Concerted, sure, he loses the lifesteal. But the problem is that they'll still, even if you play something else, they'll still be able to remove your lifesteal. They don't have to develop. And if you give them if you tap out, then they can just play things like Eclipse Dragon into Aesol. Right now, we're the one under threat. We need to make sure we're enough on the board and we have enough pressure so that they can't do whatever they want while we defend. Because if, let's say that we have to play cards to defend against what's on their board, that means that all of their mana can be committed to long-term plans, whereas all of our mana has to be committed to short-term plans. That is not something that is viable when they have such strong late-game options like Aesol. So here, not only did we screw up by picking Severum, now we actually have to play it. So in this position, he should definitely play it right now. Most probably on the 5/3, I assume, and force them to play things like single combat so they can't play their Eclipse Dragon, etc. And then once we do that, we can play we get our Gravitum, we get and we can diversify our options, most likely by playing Lunari's Priestess, and the Gravitum is most likely our option. Because after all, the Gravitum also means that they can't actually develop a large unit, and if they do, then it's basically out of commission for 2 rounds. So in this position, he actually plays Meteor Shower because he's scared of Concerted, but this doesn't play around Concerted. He's still not threatening to lifesteal. Our opponent can freely develop Eclipse Dragon or even retain the mana for Concerted Strike because we're not threatening anything. And also we lose the Moon Weapon because we play 2 cards before we play the Moon Weapon. And now that they have Eclipse Dragon, we don't even have a good attack with Severum. Although in this position, you should probably still take the lifesteal and just give up one of your blockers for lifesteal because you can just tank 2 damage for it in exchange. He should do it. It's worth the health, or I should say the health is worth it. But now he doesn't, and he is again in a very tricky position. Our opponent could play Aesol, and that would be devastating, basically. The game would more or less be over. So now we have to do something to survive. And he plays Severum. And again, now, he tried to play around Concerted Strike uselessly last round. And now we were still weak to Concerted Strike, because they could still just kill our lifesteal, and we would be able to do nothing about it. And now, again, there isn't really anything we can do in this position either. They could still have, say, single combat maybe. They could attack with everything and pull the lifesteal at the end and have single combat available maybe to kill our Aphelios or something. and we might be able to survive thanks to star shaping, but it would be a terrible position. You don't really want to be able to. You don't want to have to pick star shaping, or you don't want to have to play star shaping justice right now. In this position, he picks graviton, which debatably is okay, but again, he's basically paying 4 mana for it, which means that we're not going to be able to play star shaping. So this is already dangerous. And just so you know, when you have 2 moon weapons, the phase you choose on the first one doesn't matter. It's entirely dependent on the last moon weapon you select. And also, because he already has gravitum, it's most likely better to pick crescendum here again on the second on the gifts from beyond, so that you can have crescendum and gravitum, and then whichever one you play first, the second phase matters. And in this position, the one you want more is most likely crescendum, so you play crescendum first and then play gravitum and phase into a new crescendum for next round. So here he wanted to stun the warrior to save the aphelios, which was doable if also by playing star shaping, because star shaping counts as the second card as well. This does let him have the extra mana, but in this position our opponent actually plays Equinox, and again we are under notable threat in terms of taking blocks. But fortunately, so obviously in this position he could just play crescendum and it wouldn't matter. Like, the fact that the Eclipse Dragon is stunned is not even a big deal. It's not notable benefit. Getting more 2-drops out of your deck is just better. So in this position, these are perfectly fine blocks. He preserves the most blockers that he can. You might consider swapping the Solari Priestess and the Aphelios so he takes less damage, but the thing is you need to have as many blockers as you can get. So here we play Traveler. In this position, again, we've played Cosmic Inspiration, so it's all about units. Equinox is like, it might see use, but you want to be able to play units that can really get rid of our opponent's threats. So here's our Infernum, and again, in this position, when you phase the Infernum, you should still pick Crescendums. The other option is Calibrum, which deals 3 damage to a unit. Really nothing compared to getting a 2-drop from our deck. So here, just play the Infernum on the 5/6, so they want to block it. You gotta get rid of the Challenger to protect Aphelios, and also you get to trade 1 unit for free. There's not much reason to save this Infernum. I'm pretty sure it actually also levels up the Aphelios, which is nice, and could have also been done much earlier if we played properly. Again, he should pick Crescendum here. Get 2-drops, it's just way better, especially with Cosmic Inspiration around. And now in this position, Aphelios does gain quick attack, but they do run Hush. You don't. It's okay. If you could play around Hush by challenging the 5/1, but then you would need to you would lose the Aphelios next round. You might be willing to accept that, but in this position, you can save the Aphelios, but whether or not you save the Aphelios, you definitely attack with the Solari Priestess. You don't. There's none of these are bad traits. If he chooses to block Solari Priestess, however you look at it, you're just missing either 3 damage or a free trade. So they actually ended up having Hush. This might not be a big concern. You could save it, the Aphelios. The extra damage wasn't really that big of a deal. Probably just forgot about Hush. It's not that bad, but there wasn't really much reason to take the risk. And now you'll see in this position, this is a terrible position, no matter how you look at it. Right, we're at 1 health. Our opponent has 5 units, so we have to play Star Shaping to survive this round. And so that really means that we have to take bad short-term decisions to survive in the long term, or survive in the short term. But that's really bad. You want to be able to develop things like your Temple, your Aphelios, really get things going, get your systems running, which, well, you could say is another punishment for letting Aphelios die last round. For example, we could have had a Calibrum right now, or a crescendum. I prefer crescendum again. We could have 5 blockers and they would have 6 attackers. Again, we would only have 1 threat, and then we can just play. We would be able to play Star Shaping and Hush, for example, if we needed to survive. And now he actually has to play a second Star Shaping, double Star Shaping to survive. Terrible. Um, Again, this is, you're always on the back foot. You're never gonna really be in a good position. Now, we could have got out of this if we played better from the Cosmic Inspiration, play to stabilize, but now we're just always behind on the board. It's just terrible. So now they play Aurelion Sol, and now in this position, how would you work with Aphelios here? There isn't, I would say there isn't really any great solutions. But the first thing I would consider, for example, is something. So right now we have enough mana for 2 moon weapons and to play a 3 mana card thanks to our temple. So we could play Crescendum, and then we could play our 3-drop and then play Calibrum. This would suffice to defend. Now, another option would be something like Lifesteal. That would bring our Aphelios to 7/7. Oh, and then plus the Severum is 8 attack. And then we could phase into Infernum. But the problem is our opponent could have Sharp Sight. Now, you could argue that we concede to Sharp Sight and accept that if they don't have it, we can heal to safety as an out, but I don't think you take that option because you are not going to kill if they don't have Sharp Sight, all you gain is health. You don't actually kill the A-Soul anyway because they'll just not block with it. So what I propose is simply the first plan, which is Crescendum into Lunari Priestess into Calibrum and kill the elusive unit. So he picks Equinox. Actually, I missed the options here. Sorry. Golden Sisters, Destroyer, Equinox. Equinox doesn't really do anything immediately, but it's a safe pick. It's not the worst. You do already have the Living Legends and the Scourge, so you're not really too pressed for something like the Golden Sisters. But so in this position, he picks Gravitum. But again, here's the thing. You can play 2 moon weapons this round and get 1 next round. So what you could do, or if we played as we planned, we would have no moon weapons in our hand, which means you generate 1 again. So we would have phased into Gravitum. We would go Crescendum, Calibrum, Gravitum. And then at the start of next round, we get Gravitum, which counters whatever they would have summoned. And so, as you can imagine, that would have been much better for us. We would generate a Gravitum at the start of next round. If they attack, it's fine. We're perfectly fine. If they open attack, if they develop, we can Gravitum. We can do whatever we want. And we're in this position. We're actually still somewhat. The game is still winnable, depending on what our Aurelion Sol invoked. As long as they don't have anything like Supernova. Actually, Supernova is still doable as long as they don't level Aurelion Sol. So single combat is pretty threatening, but overall, this is still a perfectly winnable game. So, obviously, as you can see here, Equinox is you have to deal with the Scourge somehow, obviously. You're not going to survive if you let that swing. So here is a simple Equinox. And now, you obviously have to chump block the 10/10s and then minimize the damage there with Aphelios. So in this position, this is perfectly fine. Now you just take this and develop with Well, okay, so we've played one card. So if we play a second card, we gain 2 mana. So we could, for example, play Severum and then gain 2 mana back. Or we could play something like Pale Cascade. Um, Pale Cascade, go back up to 10 mana. That's an option too. Either way, you want to play something, go back up to 10 mana here after the attack, and then play like Living Legends or Scourge, and then use that as your main plan to win. So here, Golden Sisters, pretty solid. And now, again, so here's the thing. Again, he missed out on a free moon weapon. What he could have, of course, the downside, if he got the moon weapon, he would have lost 1 mana, which is fair. Now, did he make this trade-off happily? Actually, probably not. It's actually fine to give up the 1 mana to get a graviton here so that you can actually open attack next round with blighted moonlight affliction. Now, this most likely doesn't work. This only actually applies if you can set up lethal, which actually is possible depending on what you get from the Lunari Priestess. Now, if I think about it, the ability to summon, how much damage does he need? 8, 12, 5 damage? Wait, no, that's definitely possible. Actually, that was a perfectly valid strategy. We also have Atrocity if they play single combat. So actually, maybe that was a valid strategy. I'm not sure if that's correct, though. We could have, yeah, we could have just played Graviton. So now in this position, you'll see that they could have Supernova. However, because Aurelion Soul isn't leveled, I think Supernova is actually perfectly manageable. Um, so for example, we could start with Graviton and see what they do with their mana. If they play Supernova, then we can play Scourge. And actually, that would be perfectly fine. We would, while we may not win, our attack would be actually very devastating. And also, we would be able to kill our Aurelion Soul favorably because our Scourge actually has 12 health. And also, our other units all have 6 attack and overwhelm. So we kill their A-Soul, we kill their Scourge, we get 3 overwhelm damage, they have no blockers left if they play something like Supernova. They could also play they could also play the Sky's Descent, which would be threatening. But we would be able to play the Living Legends, maybe even Atrocity on our Aphelios. No, that wouldn't quite work. No, that wouldn't quite work. I don't think you play around the Sky's Descent though, because in this position you pretty much lose to most things anyway. Like, I mean, they can this lethal doesn't really work out. What he should do is he should just play single combat, assuming he has it. All right, so we should assume that because their main way to survive this is single combat, which we actually had out. All our other lines work against single combat. Judgment is super weak. Well, I shouldn't say super weak. It's a lot less reliable than something like Concerted Strike. But now in this position, we actually Atrocity the Aphelios into the Aurelion Soul, and as you can see, they can just single combat their 10-6 into our Aphelios, which makes this play really bad. So what happens is that we end up with only 10 damage in, but now we're actually starting to stabilize, and the reason for this is because a long time ago we paid 7 mana for Cosmic Inspiration, so now all of our units are bigger than theirs. And another thing is that they don't have Judgment anymore, so they don't have something like that to blow us out. We have Temple, which also gives us mana back, so we basically get 12 mana per round. And overall, now we are finally in a commanding position because we've equalized on the board. Our mana is more efficient than theirs, we have more mana than them, and everything actually finally stabilized. However, this was not without risks. There was a lot of moments where we would have lost if our opponent had a certain card or a certain combo of cards. So overall, not a great result. So actually, another option here was actually to play Sky Shadows into Gravitum into Scourge. That was a perfectly valid option. He chooses to play Gravitum into Sky Shadows into Living Legends. So here we give up the elusive, but that's only because we have Living Legends and we're going to do something devastating here, and no matter what we get from Living Legends, whether it's something like Immortal Phoenix, Immortal Fire, or Supernova. But as I mentioned before, it was mostly the poor decisions with aphelios that put us in this position in the first place. We were in a very commanding position if we worked with aphelios properly. We never would have been in a position where we were so close to losing. Our opponent would have it would have been much more demanding on our opponent's hand if we played properly, because our opponent would have needed much more specific hands to actually win. Now, I hope that I covered some of the more basic mistakes and decisions that you might come across with aphelios. Actually, I should say you will come across. For example, missing the moon weapon, curving into the wrong moon weapon, starting with the wrong one, and also poor long-term planning in terms of stabilizing the board, trying to do things that put you on the back foot rather than really stabilize and solidify the position. If our opponent just had a soul on round 8, it would have been over. If they had a single combat earlier or concerted strike, it would have been really bad. All of their they just We were lucky and they didn't have the right cards at the right times, but we could have played in a way that they, even if they did, we would have been in a very solid position and playing for a win. Thank you for watching. I hope this helps. Let me know if you want more videos like this with more basic mistakes. I'm trying to focus on tournament games. If you guys want more lower level games, then I'll start asking for more submissions like that from more public sources, because I do work with tournament players, but I can ask for example, gold players to submit games that they might for play such in a coaching session or something like that, and stuff like that basically. Anyways, thank you for watching. Have a great day. Leave a comment if you have anything to say, the usual. See you guys next time.